So beyond reality, robots and programming. Once again, robots was one of those top trends that CES has seen in consumer technology across adult technology, which also has applications for kids. So how many of you remember erector sets, Meccano, you know, either playing with it as kids? Well, so Spin Master bought Meccano 2 or 3 years ago. And they said, that was such a great line. Like, why aren't people playing with it anymore? It's such a fun range. Let's do something really spectacular. So they built this robot called Mechanoid G15 KS. Long name. KS stands for kid size. It's 3 feet tall. But it's about $500. I was expecting like they were going to say $2,000 or something. But it's fully programmable. You can take your device, your iPad, or you stick it right inside his little tummy. And you can program it just with little movements. You just touch the screen, within 5 minutes you can program it. Or you can put it in there and you can actually move his arms up and down. You push the record button and say, hey, you're really cool. I think you're the best friend a robot could ever have. And then you push the button and then he does the same actions that you just did, and he has your voice coming out of him saying, what a cool friend you are that you're playing with him as a robot. But there's just a lot of different ways you can play with them. And they also have a smaller size version that's about a foot tall or 1.5 feet tall as well. But you know, taking that technology and bringing it into where kids are programming from an early age, but they're having fun doing it. So they don't even realize they're learning a new skill about computer science. They're just having fun doing it. Miposaur is also by Wowie, and they have that same beacon sense technology in it. So he comes with a ball, and you can roll the ball and he'll chase it. Or you can have 2 people and you can like play soccer with your feet and he'll run back and forth watching it. Or if a kid wants to play that he's following, like, look, my Miposaur can follow me, and he can just have his ball, you know, with him, and people won't know, but the Miposaur's following him. Wow, how did he train his little, you know, dinosaur to follow him? And then there's food games. There's all kinds of games they can play with the Miposaurs. And if you have 2 Miposaurs, you know, 2 people playing, then you've got them fighting over the food, fighting over the ball, and it's a lot of fun. They also had, Spin Master had their Zoomer Boomer dinosaur that came out last year. This year it's in a variety of different colors, and they have mini ones. It just won the toy award at the German Toy Fair this year, because it's just being launched in European markets this year. It was launched in the 4th quarter last year in the US. Play Wonder was a company, another Kickstarter. They developed, the man who started it, Vikas Gupta, he's Indian descent, and he said, you know, I want to teach my kids about computer science. They're 3, 4, 5 years old. I want to teach them about it, but in a fun way so that it's not all like hard to do and boring. So he developed these little characters that you can teach kids to play with them by programming very simple steps. Move forward, turn right, turn left, and you just do it on, you know, little blocks on your computer. And then afterwards, you push the button, and it does the little movement that you did. Or it can do, you can make obstacle courses for it to go around. On their Kickstarter, they asked for $150,000. Within 3 days, they had gotten their $150,000, hands down, no problem. By the end of the month, anybody want to guess how much they actually earned in the first month of being on Kickstarter to get their product going? Wild guesses. Okay, good guess, $1 million. Anybody else? $1.5 million. $1.5 million of people wanting to, you know, support the growth of this product and to get it out there right away. So they're just launching. They started in late December 2012. They first started, you know, their Kickstarter, got it funded, and then in 2013 they were making sure it was all happening. Sorry, 2013 they funded it, 2014, and so this year now it's more available. It's a little more expensive, but it's about $100, $129, depending on where you get it. But it's, once again, just taking it to a level where a kid can play with it. Ozobot, on the other hand, is a 1-inch computer. It's about this big, 1 inch tall, 1 inch wide. You can play with it on a tablet computer, but what I love about it is you can also use a fat marker and draw lines. You can draw black lines and it'll follow the line. You can make code by drawing, for example, if you do red, green, red, it'll do a certain path, like it'll turn around and go backwards, or it'll stutter, Or you could do another one that's a turbo boost, and when it hits that little portion of your line that's black and then you've got the colors and then black again, it'll do a turbo boost to move really fast. Or it'll slow down, or it'll go around a corner, or it'll do different things. Now on the tablet, if you play on the tablet also, you can teach it to dance. It can choreograph dances. You can have two of them. They could dance in unison. So once again, a fun way to involve robotics and programming for kids doing different activities. And so you can play offline, off of the tablet computer, just with paper and pen, you know, those pens, or you can, you know, take it to a more advanced level. And they also, a lot of these companies that are doing robotics, they're doing curriculum-based programs for the schools so that they can actually get some of these products into the schools and engage kids in hands-on learning by doing with some of these robots so that they can, you know, want to do more. Because the whole idea is if you can get a kid to say, what if? What if I did this with it? Or could I do that with it? Try it out, see what happens. That'll encourage them to have a lifelong learning, that whole curiosity piece. And you know, you're selling a lot of learning products in your Arizona store. I'm sure your homeschoolers know those. Vex Robotics is by a company from Texas, and they make those little mini hex bugs that probably many of you have sold in your stores for a long time. And so now they're making larger kits that are, you know, more suitable for kids like in 4th, 5th grade, all the way up through high school, where they build a kit, like this one is particularly as a spider. It's probably about this big. And then after you build it, it moves. You know, it'll stomp around, and you can make it go forward, backwards, reverse. And, you know, so the kid not only builds it, they learn how to program it, and they learn how to play with it. MIP robots were introduced last year just in black and white, and now they're available in a variety of different colors. They sold over 600,000 pieces of those last year, and they're $100 each. Had that been developed 4 years ago, it would have been like $4,000 for all the technology that was built in that little mini robot. But once again, younger children can push the button, they can dance, it can do a dance sequence, they can dance with it, or they can teach it to do more advanced robotics. And when that was originally built, they built in that beacon sense technology. So now the Miposaur dinosaur can play with the MIP robots this year because they built it in thinking ahead. There's ones where you can build a robot. This is a German company, yes, where you can build the robot, and it has like a special arm that has the magnetic arm, so you could hide coins around the house and it will go find the coins and beep when it hits a coin, you know. So make games out of it so they can build a robot, they can program it very easily, and they can also build games into it. And then 4M, once again, builds, for example, you can build an insect and then it'll work. 4M has a lot of really great product that I see in a lot of specialty stores. It's a Canadian company as far as I know, and they have science, technology, just all different kinds of science kits that are off the beaten track. Like they're a different way of looking at science. So it's a different play pattern, and they make it fun. Beyond reality, connected play, I'm sure most people know about Disney Infinity and Skylanders, you know, that have been around. Skylanders started in October 2011. And they've already sold $3 billion worth of product. I mean, it's huge. And Disney Infinity started last holiday season, and they're on track to also they've already sold over $1 billion just in their first season. Because they have the parents that love the Disney characters, all of the Disney collectors and fans from around the world. So they have a built-in audience of fan collectors, but they find that men, women, whether they have children or not, kids, boys, girls, different age groups, everybody loves playing with the toy box, especially because it's a very creative area where you can go in, and Buzz Lightyear can be, you know, playing with Jack Sparrow from Pirates of the Caribbean and, you know, Spider-Man, where normally in the Disney worlds, those characters would not interact. They would only be in their own individual world. So for Disney, this is quite a departure, really being able to mix-mash all of the characters together in the different worlds. Hasbro came out with a game called Telepods. They originally came out with it with Transformers. They added, with Star Wars. They added Transformers last year. Stella, which is the new character from Angry Birds. It's now more of a girl character. They now have Telepods. And these are less expensive sets. These are like $14.99. You get a couple characters in there. It interacts with your, you know, tablet computers, etc. So it works, less expensively than these other kits. Minecraft we already talked about, earlier on another slide. And then Nintendo is coming out with their Nintendo Amiibo characters, but they only work on the Nintendo products. The DS, the 3DS, et cetera. Whereas the Disney Infinity and the Skylanders can work with PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo, any Wii, any of the play systems you have at home. And if you're not familiar with it, they're characters that are action figures. You put them on a portal. The portal is attached to your video game system. And when you put it on the portal, that character then transforms or transports into the world and becomes playable in the world as an action figure. And when you're done with that game, all of the points you've earned, all of the levels you've achieved, you take them off that portal and they're all stored in your little guy, in your little action figure. And so if we're playing at my house and I have an Xbox and we go to your house and you have a PlayStation, it doesn't matter. We can put them on your portal and play together in your world, my guy and your guy, or my gal and your girl. They have a lot of girl characters as well. Jakks Pacific just came out with a lower priced version, just like Hasbro did. It's called Hero Portal, but it's tied to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Power Rangers. So it's tied to some of the popular characters, but it's, I think, $49.99 or less for getting into the initial system, and then the different character packs are less. So it just provides a different option for people who aren't, carrying the Skylanders and the Disney Infinity. It's that whole world of playing in a video game world and an offline world as well. And Skylanders is coming out with this holiday season even more play, but I had to sign a confidentiality agreement, so I can't talk about it till after June 4th, but it's going to be hot. So wearable technology was huge at the CES show last year and also this year. All of the Google glasses, all the different ways of wearing them, all the different companies that are coming out with them, not just Google, which has a different name for people who wear Google Glass. I don't know if you guys have heard it. Glass holes. Because some of them, people just don't want to be around them. But there's a lot of different company making augmented reality glasses that do different technology. There's even for kids. It's called Faux Glass, and you can wear it. It looks just like Google Glass, but it's only 20 bucks. It lights up on the side. You can pretend that you're talking, pretend that you're clicking a picture. It has a flashlight on the front. So it's just fun for kids to pretend. And the kids that I've seen playing with it in focus tests, they pretend like they're roving reporters. And now I'm going to take a picture of you. And okay, I got it. And then they go on and they do something else. So fitness bands and activity trackers, big for adults because of the whole quantifiable self trend, which means you can track your calories, your steps, your weight, your fitness levels, your performance levels. And now kids can also track it. There's the Leap Band, which came out at the fourth quarter last year, which kids can play games on, and it tracks their activity. The VTech Kitty Zoom smartwatch actually is a watch, a gallery, a camera. It has a camera built into it. There's games, all these different activities. And it's literally so easy. The camera is right here. And you just take a picture, and then you can add a frame to it and send it to a limited list of that your parents have approved. For adults, 9450 is a basketball that has performance tracking built in. You use your phone to track, so it can track the arc of the ball, your dribbling speed, whether or not how many times you actually made a basket, and then it will give you tips on how to improve, either the arc of your ball or how you're spinning it. Same thing with soccer balls. Adidas has come out with the My Coach program with the soccer ball, and in fact, the German team who won the World Cup last year used it as one of their performance training tools. So, if it helped their game and they won, it's kind of a nice testament to the fact that even high-level performance athletes are using it, and it's one of the first tracking tools that's being used in the U.S. for the U.S. Soccer leagues as well now. Okay, and then of course we talked about the Moth Band earlier, which is another one. Nabi Fuhu is coming out with some fitness bands. A number of other companies are coming out in the fourth quarter with fitness bands for kids too. Virtual reality, augmented reality is coming up. It's not as elegant of solutions in in vehicles yet, and in cars and in devices for kids. I mean, this is just an example of the number of glasses that are now competing with Google Glass. They have an augmented reality trade show. I went last year. It was the 5th augmented reality trade show. I didn't even know they had it. But you went there, and a third of the people were wearing Google Glass because it was in Silicon Valley, which was funny. But I got to try on the Oculus Rift, which is you immerse yourself into a 3D environment, and you're playing soccer with people, and you're like going all the way around, and there's players behind you, in front of you, and it's amazing. But no, not many people have $1,500 or $2,000 to buy that. Facebook just bought them for $2 billion, so they believe there's a reason that that technology is going to move forward. But for kids, Google, and I don't have pictures of it yet, but there's Google Cardboard. So you can get your own cell phone device and put it inside of a Google Cardboard box, and then you can go through and download things and look at it, and it gives you that 4D experience. Viewmaster from Mattel just revamped their Viewmaster line using this kind of Oculus Rift kind of thing, but for like $69. And you get a number of things. And there's dinosaurs, there's cities like San Francisco where you can go down to the wharf and hear the sounds, and so it's sounds and visuals as well. So it's still in its infancy for the toy area, but it's growing. So the area it's really taken off is more the racing. So for example, on the corner over here, this is Anki. Anki has vehicles that you use your phone. It's like slot car racing without the slots. You have a pad on the floor, a mat, and they race around on the mat, and you can control skids and put out oil skids and things to like make your competitors virtually slow down on the track, and they don't know it's there until they hit it. So you can compete and play against them in real time. This year they came out with Anki Overdrive, which is more vehicles. They've got a track system now that has ramps, and you can go up and down. It's not just a flat mat anymore. Now it's 3D. Huge hit at the CES show and also at the New York Toy Fair a couple weeks ago. We talked about the Rev. Lighthawk also has slot car racing with these tracks that are configurable and flexible. And this is a Canadian company also. Sphero is out of Boulder, Colorado. There's a real hotbed of activity coming out of Boulder. It's like a Silicon Valley area. There's a lot of investor and tech companies that are developing things. When this first came out, it was a ball. And when I saw it at the CES show, I'm like, okay, cool. It's a ball you control with your phone. How long is that play pattern going to, be exciting? But then they developed like 35 different apps within the course of 6 months because they had open source so that anybody could come up with a game, and if they really liked a game, they would put it into the Sphero range of products that you could purchase. So they came up with one, for example, where, yeah, it's a ball, but on your screen it looks like a character, or it looks like a zombie, or it looks like a cat, or it looks like something else, and so you're controlling it and playing obstacle courses. They've built ramps for them now. They now have covers for them so they can go in water. If a dog picks it up in its mouth, it's not going to break. They have nubby covers, they're waterproof. And their newest version is called Ollie, and that one goes 13 miles an hour. And you can go up ramps and down ramps and do spins and twists, and it's like, they call it their stunt Sphero. Because an Ollie is one of the first tricks you learn as a skateboarder, so that's why they called it Ollie. And then Carrera, which has been around for over 50 years, Carrera now has digital 1/32 scale track that is, digital slot car racing, wireless racing, and you can race it on the racetrack. If you go to my website, reneerice.com, we just had this on TV for New York Toy Fair, and it goes really fast. And there's a Ferrari car. They have the Porsche RS, and they have exclusive licenses for those two vehicles, and a lot of vehicles, but especially for Ferrari, they're the exclusive licensee. So once again, these are the kind of things that Father's Day would be great to have in your store, in May. Dads, grads, and grooms, that whole May, June time period, because dads and kids love playing with these things together. And why not give a groom something like this that's fun? You don't have to give them ties and housewares. You can give them something really fun. Brain training and mindfulness. This is another trend that's starting to come to the fore, where people are, there's so many fitness trackers and performance trackers, and they're all kind of stress reducers, but in a sense, they're also kind of stressful that you're keeping track of all these things that are happening. So one of the things is also looking at, okay, how do you concentrate and bring the level down? Just focus. Just be mindful of that moment. Just be not always on high speed. So they've got the Lumi Kids for kids. You know, you can do your own brain training profile and Lumosity for adults, but now kids can also play simpler games and do some of those things. If you need your kids to learn about focus and concentration, it's a good way to start them. A company, Puzzle Box out of San Francisco, they started with, or they actually made one of the first helicopters that you used a headset that you could use mind control to have the helicopter activate and fly. You use your brain power to lift it off, go forward, go back. And it's amazing when you see someone doing it, that they can actually do it. So they developed also a mindfulness tool called the Lotus. And as you meditate, the flower opens. The more advanced you are, the more open it becomes. It turns different colors depending on which level you've reached. And you can also have a companion one for someone else in the world so they can see when you're on your device. Like if my daughter's in Japan doing a photo shoot, we could both have, our Lotus, and she could say, "Oh, Mom's meditating now," because I can see I'm not doing it, but it's turning on, and et cetera. So it's kind of a way to stay connected with someone across the miles. Inside Out Games has a yoga game, and it teaches kids focus and concentration. It also teaches them the yoga poses, and they have a card game, which is a spinner game, also small, a $14.99 game, $12.99, $14.99. Everything stores inside the spinner, all the cards. So you put the cards out, you spin. If you get a blue card, you pick a blue card. If you can do the pose and you do it correctly, you get to keep the card. And once you get a card that's red, green, blue, all the different colors, yellow, then you win the game. So it's teaching kids about focusing and concentration and also learning a skill that they'll use for the rest of their life. So last year I talked a lot about the Fit for Life trend, and that trend is continuing, teaching kids skills that they'll use for the rest of their life, whether it's hobbies or science or technology or whatever it is. Star Wars, obviously, we talked about that earlier. That's going to be a big play this year. Uncle Milton has their Star Wars Force Trainer version 2. This one uses the mind, the brain power and the headset, but it uses holographic technology in the tool. Like you put your headset on and you try and make the ship rise, just by looking at it. Or if the stormtroopers come after you, you can push them back, with your mind power. Just stare at them until they go and disappear and move out of the scene. And they had that, they actually launched it at the Consumer Electronics Show, but they had it at Toy Fair and in Nuremberg, et cetera. And it's going to be a fourth quarter item. But, once again, a toy application of brain mindfulness power. Now, brain teaser games, there's a ton of different ways to carry these in your stores. There's games that use different shapes and building, and it builds spatial awareness. There's card games, like this one is like a really tiny little set of cards that, sells. It could be an impulse item at the stores, and it has lots of different activities in that one little kit. So you can take it with you. It's great for travel and for summer. GeoBricks, it's like Tetris, but, right there in front of you, four-dimensional, or tanagrams where you put things together. Gravity Maze, Think Fun, their whole range is about brain teasers and brain power and single-player games and multiplayer games. Logic Dots, once again, another way using dice and cubes to play. So you've got cards, cubes, shapes, random shapes. And then you've got wooden pieces. I mean, you can build nice wooden sets. And if you haven't been to a marble store, for example, to go check out some of the competition, the marble stores have wonderful brain games. Even their website has a lot of incredible brain games. And they found that in their mall stores, they actually got quite a lot of traffic from teenagers who, are shopping the malls and hanging out. They don't have any money, but they go in and play the games. But what they do is later on, they bring their parents. And then their parents buy the games for them. And then they'll also pick up a game for themselves or for the grandparents or whatever. And so they've built a really nice model, and they have quite a few stores. They're doing a lot of business on kind of brain games. And then this is kind of more of a three-dimensional kind of stacking game for kids, showing them about balancing. And it's also, once again, a brain teaser. Now, another trend that's hitting is 3D printing, 3D, it's that whole maker movement kind of trend. Last year in the fourth quarter, Hasbro worked together with 3D Systems, and they came up with a program where you could go to there were 10 different Walmart stores across the country. They did a test program. You could bring your kid would scan 360 degrees of his head or her head, and then you buy either Iron Man, Captain America, and then 3 weeks later, your action figure with your kid's face, as the head of Iron Man comes to your door. Now, I went there to do it, and they didn't have a Wonder Woman or a Catwoman or any females, and I said, well, I don't necessarily want to be Iron Man, I want to be a woman. So I suggested that they come up with some other female characters as well for girls who want to be superheroes. In fact, this year at Toy Fair, Mattel came out with a superhero Barbie, because they did research with girls and found that 9 out of 10 girls wanted to be superheroes, and they wanted more superheroes in their lives. So they invented a doll who is a doll that can transform from a princess to a superhero, and they have the DVD coming out this month in March. Last year, Monster High is a continuing brand, which probably isn't carried in many specialty stores, but they last year came out with a plotter, where you could put your doll in there and it would plot the face. So you could say which eye colors you wanted, how you wanted it to look, etc. And then you could add all the different accessories. But you plug it in, you put the pens in, and then you close the gate, and then it actually reconfigures it however you want. Then you can wash it all off and do it again. But it was just a foray into starting to look at how Mattel and Hasbro are tracking this. Now, Hasbro has also taken their My Little Pony line, and they're building in their Transformers line, where you can go to a store or the Thingiverse or wherever you want to go, get the software, and you can print out your own pony. You can paint it whatever colors you want. So the bronies, the adult fans that love this are really going wild with this. And it's just a way to protect their property by getting in the game early instead of someone else trying to knock them off with some other pony. They're like, hey, let's use our brand equity and go into it full force and embrace these collectors who are 3D fans. This here is a 3D printer. It's by a company called Bonsai out of Japan. And even though it's it's about 9 inches by 9 inches, you can make full-size robots. You just print the arm out, then you print the body, then you print the head, and then you put it all together. Jakks Pacific in the fourth quarter is coming out with a printer for kids that you can make characters, and it's only $39.99. It's a very simple system, but it's also a maker kit for kids. Think Fun just came out with their Maker Studio, which is a whole range of products that you can use software to build different pieces, and then you use things from around the house to combine with it. This one is very interesting. This here is a 3D doodler. So it's a pen that has the filaments of plastic in it, and you would start at the bottom here, and then you would go like this, and you would make the wheel. Then you would maybe make the other wheel. Then you say, okay, I want the big pie to pink, so you change the filament, put the 2 wheels there, and you connect it. But you're just using a pen to draw, and you're drawing in air, which is amazing. So it's 3D doodling with a 3D printer. And then these are just some examples of just different colors you can get of this 3D printer. It's a $500 version printer, but most of the printers out there by MakerBot and some of the bigger companies, they're $13.95 for their smallest version, and then of course they go up to huge versions. But from the manufacturing side, a lot of inventors and manufacturers are using these in their product development to test out whether a sample works, whether all the pieces fit together, the sizes work. If they want to size something up or down, they can try and see what it looks like. So they're using it as a tool in product development to get to sample and modeling much quicker. Okay. Crowdfunding. There's a lot of crowdfunding. There are a lot of companies that are starting with crowdfunding, and they've gone to the big companies. They've gone to Mattel, to Hasbro, whatever, to sell their ideas. And I mean, the reality is, Mattel sees 300 new products a week. Hasbro sees 300 to 400 new products and games a week. And they may only take 10 in to look at them over the course of the year. And of those 10, maybe only 5 make it to market. So these companies are frustrated, these inventors saying, I've got such a great idea, I want to make it work. So they're going to crowdfunding. And like, you know, the Dash and Dot, you know, $1.5 million later in 1 month, okay, strong support for this idea. People want this out there. And all of these companies were Kickstarter companies. Ruminate had their Kickstarter in fall of 2013. And they also, within 2 days, fielded it. They made building kits that have an electronic component to it. So girls can add, or boys, because girls and boys are both buying it. It was originally developed by 2 engineers from Stanford who, in all of their classes of 100 people and more, they were the only 2 in all of their engineering classes that were girls. They're like, why aren't there more girls in engineering? So they wanted to, you know, they went back and, well, what did we do as kids that other people may not have done? And their parents bought them a soldering iron when they were 8 years old. They got them a toolkit, and they let them play with things and gave them the phone when it broke so they could open it up and look at what was inside. And they wanted to encourage that in other kids. So they built this, and they've got, like, you can have a working fan or turn the lights on in your, you know, after you build your house, you can turn the lights on in it. And then they had a gallery, and they had people submit things. Girls were, you know, making the Golden Gate Bridge with lights on it. They were building a car washing, you know, machine where they could wash their dolls' clothes or their cars, you know, their Hot Wheels cars, you know, not their brothers. And they did very well with their Kickstarter campaign. They also are young, beautiful, you know, Stanford graduates. You know, one of the girls is about 6 feet tall, slender, gorgeous. And then they went on Shark Tank, and one of the investors invested in them. So they got $500,000 to continue their development. They just went through their next round of funding, and they just got $15 million to continue to build this and to do well with it. So these ideas are kicking off, and if you, like, I have Indiegogo and Kickstarter where they send me, like, once a month they send me, or you can do it once a week, once a day, whatever. They'll send you a list of some of their best tracking new funds, you know, what's out there. And you can go there and look at some of these things. You can invest in them if you want to, but you can also reach out to these companies and say, hey, Moth, I like that you're doing this product. Can you tell me when you go into production and keep me on your list? Because I want to hear your product. I love this. And it's not just Kickstarter and Indiegogo anymore. There's Techstars, which actually gives people, if they like your idea and they want to fund it, they give you 3 to 6 months of funding and a mentor and, you know, backing and a business plan, and they help you write it and, you know, really get your product to market. Like Sphero, that ball, that was funded by Techstars out of Boulder, Colorado. There's a new one called Toy Backer, just started in January of this year. And it's really looking at how do we back toys and getting them into the market, toys and games. And Kickstarter has also launched a ton of games. So just a recap of kind of the trends we talked about, your little scientists or little scholars, express yourself, all about creativity and imagination, beyond reality and tech toys, kind of a lot of the things that are happening in tech that kids are wanting to be involved in. They're seeing their older brothers and sisters, they're seeing it on TV, they want to be involved in this. Mini is King continues to be, you know, a trend. You know, the minis are selling and something that are nice impulse items in the stores, especially in the summer months. Retromania, you know, if you have Star Wars fans, if you have those dinosaur fans, you know, those kind of things are things that are generations, you know, Transformers, Power Rangers. Even though you may or may not carry licensed product in your store, you may want to carry a small selection for people who are traveling who want that little thing for their kid when they're traveling, just, you know, as a thought. So unstructured and unplugged play is just as important to parents today as them letting their kids use tablets. Because they want their kids to get away from this. They want them to use their creativity and imagination. So if you have a section of your store that you can you know, dedicate to unstructured play, you know, those building blocks, those kind of things that, you know, parents can work on with their kids, or ebooks, you know, books that have, you know, products that go with them, whether it's a plush or something like that, you know, a book and a toy together. Looking at the key blockbuster movies that are coming out and saying, hey, this may be a blockbuster movie tied to a particular theme, but it can drive those classic toy sales like dinosaurs or cars or vehicles or whatever if there's a Cars movie coming out. So retro brands and favorite characters are cherished and, you know, could be a part of your mix if it works for you, selectively, of course. Building sets, construction, we showed all the different, not all the different forms, but some of the different forms, and that continues to grow and was a 13% growth category last year. Huge. Well, the Lego movie was a part of that too, the tremendous success of the Lego movie. Keep an eye out for some of these crowdfunding trends. You can watch my website for updates and trend stories. Like I said, I go to 24 trade shows. I don't report on every single trade show on my site, but I'll do blogs and updates on things or presentations like this where you can, come and rewatch this later. Know your local customers, ask your customers. If somebody says Shopkins once, you're like, oh, that's interesting, what's a Shopkin? Two times in a week. Third time you hear Shopkins, you're thinking, well, maybe I should investigate what this Shopkins is and why people are coming in and asking for it, and should I be carrying it in my store? I went into a Toys R Us store in December, and I said, I want to see what the Shopkins range is. And they said, oh, well, we don't have it. And I was floored. I said, you don't have Shopkins? I thought it was like huge for you. They go, yeah, it's so huge, it's sold out. Like, we can't get it. It's outside the West Coast port strike. They're all on the boats out there. We're waiting for them to come in. But they didn't have a single item of Shopkins. Like I said, well, don't you normally have an end cap? Yeah, but we don't even have one left. And I mean, they're just selling like gangbusters. So listen to your customers if they're saying things, and then maybe test something out. And if you have a mailing list and that customer says, I'd really like to see this, and you get a few in, and if it sells, thank them. Tell them, hey, you suggested this and it worked well. And then they'll keep suggesting things to you. And hopefully they'll have good advice. So here's my contact information if you want to get hold of me. And we have about 10 minutes left if anyone has any questions before the show starts.